Hi guys. Today I'm sharing with you my 6-month update for my makeup inventory numbers. I originally did this in January. That was the first time I'd ever done it. When I realized that I have a problem. I have a makeup problem. And so I will link that in the description box below, as well as put it up in the cards up here if you care to go back and look at it. When I did this in January, after realizing that I had a problem, I had these goals that I was going to do, and I failed miserably. I did. The first 4 months of the year were the worst. I've done really well since since April. April, I went a little ham. I did. Went a little ham because it was my birthday. And the fact that I am spoiled. My friends and my subscribers spoil me. They do. I had a lot come into my collection that was friend mail, but it did come into my collection, so I'm adding it. Also, I have this drawer thing over here that I have mostly skincare, but also my makeup backups and things that I've gotten in subscription boxes and stuff like that. I just shove them in there. Well, skincare I'm not counting because I don't have a problem with skincare. But going through that recently, like when I moved rooms, there was stuff in there. There was stuff in there that I have since added into my collection on the numbers. It's still in there, but at least it's on my spreadsheet. I know that it's in my collection. And so some of the numbers that have come in have come from that. Also, some things have changed categories. So I am going to share with you what I had in January, anything that I have finished, anything that I have decluttered, and then my final number. So I will tell you if something was a backup or also what changed categories. So if you want to hear my sad numbers and how much I failed, then stick around. Welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Andi, and I'm really happy that you're here. All right, I'm going to be showing you photos that I took in January. So the photos that I had in my original video, and then I'm going to be showing you the updated photos of everything that is in my collection now. Some things, like I said, were backups. They're still in their packaging, or things that I have not used, things that I have not opened at all. Some of those are pictured separately, but I will have both photos so that you can see the entire category on there. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I hope so. I have to have my glasses because when I printed this off, it printed off super tiny, and I didn't want to reprint it. All right, let's go. Let's start with eye primers. And I had 7 in January. I didn't finish any. I did declutter 1 to my mom, actually. And I bought 1. Now, I had 3 in my backups. How I had those and didn't realize it. I knew of my Urban Decay, but that's the only one that I realized that I remembered that I had. So I have 10 altogether. I have 10 eye primers. For face primer in January, I had 12. I finished 6 face primers this year. Yay me. Yay me. Pat myself on the back. I did declutter 1 to my mom. Recently, my mom has thrown away a lot of her makeup because it was old. And we're talking like old. My mom doesn't wear makeup. She has a little shindig this weekend. She has her, I think it's her 55th year reunion, class reunion, or 60th class reunion. I can't remember, but she's got to be all fancy for that. So I gave her some stuff out of my hoard so that she didn't have to go buy anything. Face primer. I had 12 in January. I finished 6. Like I said, I decluttered 1. I added 11. I added 11 face primers since January. I had 2 backups that I didn't realize. So I have 18 altogether, 18 face primers. For glow primer, glow drops, these are things that I will put on my face before I put on my foundation, or I will mix in with my foundation to give me a little glow, a little luminosity. You know, I had 5 of those in January. I did not finish any. I did not declutter any. I had 5 come into my collection. I don't want to say bought them because some of these are from subscription boxes. Some of them, like I said, friend mail, things like that. So 5 were added to my collection. And I had 8 backups. I didn't even know. I had them all in one drawer. I didn't even realize that those were there. So I have 8 backups that I have now, overstock backups, whatever you want to call it, that I have now put in. And now I have 18. So I have 18 face primers and 18 glow primers. So I have 36 primers for my face. One face. I have one face. Just so you know. So foundation, I had 11 in January. I used up 5. So yay for using up 5 foundations. I did declutter 3. Actually, I think that might be 4 because I decluttered 2 to my friend Dina, 1 to Leanna, and 1 to my mom. So I actually decluttered 4. However, I added 11 foundations in 6 months, yes, plus 3 backups. So altogether, I have 17 on there, but I think it might be 16 because, like I said, I'm pretty sure I decluttered 4 foundations since January. Liquid concealer, liquid cream concealer. I had 11 in January. I have used 2. I decluttered 0, but I added 4 this last 6 months. I had 1 in my backup. And so I have 14 altogether, 14 concealers. Why? I don't know. I don't even really like concealer, you guys. I use it, but don't really like it. Next up is cream concealer. I had 1 in January. I finished 0. I decluttered 0. I did add 1, and that was my J Cat balm concealer thing. Anti-fatigue cooling under eye balm. That's beige. So I have 2. Now, in my color correctors, I think that I put that in my color correctors as well. So I might have 1 more color corrector than what I actually have because it kind of is a color corrector, but it's also a concealer. I don't know. I don't really know where to put that. So it might be in both of those, but I have 2. So I have 2 cream concealers. Okay, so now we have my color correctors. I had 1 in January. I have added 3, and this is where I think the J Cat comes in because I added another peach and I added a blue to cool down foundation. But I also think that color corrector was in there. So I have 3, but it was actually 2. So I have 3 altogether. Because I have 4 on here. So I have 3 altogether. Does that make sense? I have 3 altogether. Cream contour. So for my cream contours, in January I had 4. I have used 2 of my cream contours. I added 5 this year. I added 5 cream contours so far this year, which gives me a count of 7. But stand by. That actually does. You guys know, if you've been here any length of time, you know I'm not a good mather. I don't math well. But I did double check. I did kind of go through, check my work, all of that. I did cheat a little bit and use the Google Sheets. I used the adding and subtracting. But still, I have messed with these numbers several times. So I'm pretty sure that they're accurate. You know, if you want to pause the video and count to see if I'm lying or not, if that makes you happy, go ahead and do that. That's fine. Okay, so 7 altogether, cream contours. Powder contour. Now, I had 3 in January, but I have moved all of those to my bronzer category because they're bronzers. They're just cool bronzers that I use as a cool contour. But they're actually bronzers. So I just moved them all in with my bronzers. That's where they were living anyway. So I just put those all together. So cream contour, or powder contour, like I said, I had 3. I finished 0. I decluttered 0. I added 0. I put those into my bronzer category, so I have 0. Does that make sense? I just thought that was silly to have a powder contour category when they're just bronzers. You guys, they're just bronzers. They're just cooler shades. Okay, so for loose powder, my numbers are not correct because I did declutter. So I had 8 in January. I did declutter 1. I finished 0. I did declutter 1 to my mom, which I did not put in my sheet, but I also added 7. Now, some of those were from subscription boxes, but also I bought a few. Plus, I had 1 backup. So I have 16, but I think the actual total is 15. I think is 15. So for pressed powder, I only had 1 pressed powder at the beginning of the year. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any, but I did add 2. So I only have 3 pressed powders. Now, those 2 pressed powders that I bought this year were both powder foundations, but I don't use powder foundation, but I do use those as a pressed powder. For bronzer, so my pressed powder bronzer, I had 4 in January. I didn't use any. I didn't declutter any. I did add 3 to my collection. I think I bought all of those too. I think all of those were bought. But this is where it gets tricky. I had 5 that changed categories. So the 3 powder contours went into my bronzer category. Plus I had a blush from ColourPop that just works better as a bronzer. It's a very light tan shade. So I put that into my bronzer, but then I had a bronzer that works better as a blush. So all of the plus and minuses, I have 10. I have 10 powder bronzers. Now for cream bronzer, I had 0 cream bronzers in January. I have added 3 cream bronzers. And then in my cream contour, one of those is actually too warm to be a contour. It was an e.l.f. It's actually an e.l.f. concealer, e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, but I use it as a cream bronzer. So I added that into that category. And so I have 4. I have 4 cream bronzers right now. For blush, this is where it's going to get a little ridiculous. I'm just saying, it's ridiculous. Freaking ridiculous. Not all of these were bought. Just saying, not all of them were bought. Some of them came from subscription boxes. So pressed powder blush, I had 20. I had 20 in January. I have finished 0 powder blush. I decluttered 2. I did have 1 go to my bronzers, like I said. I added 9. I bought 9. I received 9. 9 came into my collection. So I have 24. With the ones that change categories, the ones I decluttered, all of that, I have 24. 24 of them, which is too many. Too many. So cream blush, I had 12. I decluttered 2, and I can't remember. I know one of them was a Keys cream blush, but I can't remember what the other one was. But I added 14. Not all of those were bought by me, but 14 cream blushes came into my collection. So now I have 24. So I have 24 powder and 24 cream blushes. So I have 48 blushes. Why? Why is that? I don't even know. Okay, now we have blush highlighter duos. And I'm kind of confused on how I did this in January because I'm not really sure. I think I had them in my blushes and in my highlighters. I have 6 of them. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any. I didn't add any. So I still have 6, but I don't remember how I did that in January. However, starting in January of next year, I'm doing all my blushes and my highlights by pans. So if I have a face palette that has 3 blushes and a highlight in it, then I'm going to count those blushes toward my blush. Because right now I have blush highlighter duos, and I also have face palettes all in one category. And some of them are blushes, some of them are highlighters, some of them are a mixture. I think it's just easier to count the pans. So I have, say I have 15 blush pans, which I have more than that. But, you know, does that make sense? So for instance, this Natasha Denona Diamond and Blush, which I got from Dion Loves Makeup. So it has highlighters and blush. So for highlighters, I would count 1, 2, 3. For blush, I would count 1, 2, 3. This is kind of a blush lighter, but does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to count them by pans starting in January because I think that'll just be easier. Plus, I think it was Caitlin Costello when I watched her collection numbers, whatever. I think that's what she did when I saw it at the end of the year last year, and it actually makes sense to me to do it that way. All right, moving on. So my highlighters, my pressed powder highlighters, again, out of control category. Out of control. I had 17 in January. I finished 0, obviously. It's so hard to finish a highlighter, but so I finished 0. I did declutter a highlighter through my Project 3 uses. I added 8. And then 2 of them switched categories, and I'm not really sure why that is, unless I counted them toward my highlighters last year and not my blushes. I can't remember. So I have 26 altogether, 26 pressed highlighters altogether. For loose highlighters, I had 3 in January. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any. I didn't add any. However, one of my, I thought it was a loose eyeshadow. It was a Sydney Grace. I thought it was one of her pigments, loose pigments. No, it was actually a highlighter. So that came into my collection in that category. So I have 4 of them. I have 4 loose highlighters. For cream or liquid highlighters, I had 8 at the beginning of the year. I didn't finish any. I did not declutter any. But I did add 3. I added 3. I think those were maybe all in subscription boxes, but I can't remember. One of those did change categories. I did put that into my Glow Primer category, but I have 10 altogether. For single highlighters, that means that just like single pan highlighters that I have in a Z palette, I had 3 in January. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any, but I did add 2 to my collection. Those were both Sydney Grace, and they were in a, might have been 2 or 3 actually. They were in the mystery bags. And I do have one that I depotted from an Ofra palette. It had eyeshadow and blush and a big highlighter. So I depotted that highlighter and it is now in my Z palette. So altogether I have 6. So for setting sprays, I had 5 in January. I used 4 of them. I used 4 up this first 6 months. I added 2. I had bought 2. And then I had 2 in backup. So I have 4. I think I have 4 of them now. Face palettes. I had 10 in January. I didn't finish any, obviously. I didn't declutter any. I did add 3 to my collection. Now, the Morphe blush trio that was pictured in my pressed blush should not be there. I realized that after I finished all my photos, I was exhausted. I did it this morning when I got home from work. And so I rephotograph that, but I did add 3. Plus I changed categories on 3. So altogether I have 16. Right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes. So I had 10. I added 3. And then 3 changed categories into face palettes because I had them in my highlighters, I had them in my blushes, whatever. So there are 16 altogether. Okay, that's all for the face products. Now we're going to eyes. Eyeshadow, which this is not palettes. My palettes I'm putting on the end. So for my liquid and cream eyeshadow, I had 12 at the beginning of the year, which is 12 more than I need because I don't really use it. 12 at the beginning of the year. I did declutter 3. I added 5. And those were subscription box and mystery box. I added a couple of Sydney Grace. So I have 14 liquid shadows. I don't know why. The Sydney Grace ones are lovely. The Huda ones are lovely. All the rest of them, I don't know if I like them. I haven't used them. I don't know. Okay, so crayons and shadow sticks, which you might think are the same thing. I look at a crayon as something you can sharpen, and a shadow stick is something that's retractable. But I had 5 of those at the beginning of the year. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any. I did add 1. It was a gift with purchase. And so now I have 6. I think that's probably 6 more than I need, but whatever. My potted eyeshadow, which is eyeshadow that's like in packaging. I had 7 at the beginning of the year. I didn't finish any. I didn't declutter any. I still have 7. So I haven't added to that at all. My loose shadow, I had 5 at the beginning of the year. I had 1 change category. That's the one that I told you I added to my loose highlighter because I thought it was an eyeshadow, but it wasn't. So my loose shadows actually went down 1, and only because it changed categories. I didn't use any. Actually, I think all of those are unopened. I've never used them. Now I do have like 8 or 9 loose shadows that are Bare Minerals that I don't use, and I'm not going to use them. I don't have those on my spreadsheet because they're so old. I'm not going to use them. I will never declutter those. I will never declutter them. It's a very sentimental thing for me, so I am not counting them, but I'm not decluttering them. They're just there. So I actually went down 1 because it changed category. So I have 4. Okay, so my ColourPop Super Shock shadows, I had 44 of them in January. I, of course, didn't declutter any because I will never do that. I didn't finish any. But I only added 5. I don't think that's too bad, right? I added 5. So I have 49. I have 49 Super Shock shadows. And that is not a category that's probably going to go down. Because I love them, because they're beautiful. Just saying. Okay, my eyeshadow singles. This had a big jump. So I had 51 in January. I have since added 27. So those were mostly Sydney Grace shadows. And then I had 9 Cleona that I added that were a gift for my birthday. The Sydney Grace, some of those I got in the mystery bags. I had an amazing subscriber, Mary, send me a bunch of them. And then Leanna recently sent me a bunch of them as well. I also had 8 shadows that I depotted from palettes. I decluttered the palette. There were certain shades that I wanted out of that. So I depotted them and put them in a Z palette. So I now have 86 single shadows. That's ridiculous, you guys. I'm not stopping. I love them. Do I use them? I'm using them more. I use them more than I did last year. Okay, for eyeliners. For black liquid liners, I had 4. In January, I added 4. And so now I have 8. I don't really wear liquid liners ever. I don't want to say ever. I do sometimes, but I don't need 8 of them for sure. Black pencil liners. This actually went down considerably. I had 21 in January. I have used up 7. I did add 2. So I have 16 black pencil liners. Still probably 14 more than I need. I only need a couple. I would like to use up quite a few. I have a couple that I'm working on that are kind of small that I am just using those only so that I can get those out. Okay, and this is a ridiculous category as well. I had 55 colored liners. So colorful liners, I had 55 of them. I did declutter one of them, but I added 13 because I bought the Odin's Eye mystery box, and it came with a whole set. It came with a whole set of colored liners. Yes. So now I have 67 colored liners, and I don't even hardly wear them. At the end of the year, I've talked about this a couple of times, I think. In December, I'm doing Vlogmas. That's when I'm doing all of my collection and declutter videos. And the colored liners is going to be a savage declutter. Savage declutter, I'm just saying. Because I don't need colored liners. My mascara, I had 10 in January. I used up 4. I did declutter one to my mom, but I can't remember which one it was because I didn't put it down. And the one that I thought I gave her is in it was in the photos that I took. So I'll have to look and see. I did add 6 to that, so I have 12. That's not bad. That's not bad because I do use them until a little bit after maybe they've expired, or use them up completely. I did have one mascara fiber set in January. I still have that. I haven't opened it at all. So I still have that one. And I had 2 lash serums, which I did not take pictures of because I have pictures from January. I did declutter one of them because it was old, and I added one or something. I can't remember. I have one, you guys. I have one mascara, or I have one lash serum. I don't know where it is. I didn't take a picture of it because I don't know where it is. All right, for brows. Brow pencils, I had 6 in January. I used up 2 of them. I did add 2 of them. I think both of those were subscription boxes. One might have been an elf that I purchased, but I still have 6. I don't use brow pencils very often. I use eyeshadow for my brows. So I don't know how that's going to get used up. For brow gel, I had 5 in January. I used 1. I didn't declutter any. I did add 1, so I still have 5. Brow pomade, I had 1 in January. I still only have 1. It's still unopened. I mean, I opened it, but I haven't used it. And it is the Anastasia. And then I have 1 brow palette that I got from Gloria. Makeup and More with Gloria P. I really like it because it has a dark brown in it. And right now I'm using a certain shadow. And when that's done, I will start working on that one again. So I still only have 1 brow palette. Okay. Last category is lips, other than eyeshadow palettes. Last category is lips. Lip liners. I had 32. I used 1 completely. Just one. I did declutter 2. And I added 7, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of those were from subscription boxes because I don't really buy lip liners. So altogether, I have 36 lip liners that I don't use. I use like 4. Whatever. Again, savage declutter at the end of the year. Savage. My bullet lipsticks. I had 21 bullet lipsticks. I decluttered 1. I added 11. Most of those were subscription boxes because I don't really buy bullet lipsticks. So I have 31 bullet lipsticks that I don't wear. I wear like 5. Okay, so this category is like crayons and stick lipstick. Some people will call the retractable ones bullet lipsticks, but I don't. They're just a stick. They're just a stick. Because they're not shaped like a bullet. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I had 20 of them in January. I did finish one. I finished one of my Maybelline Color Sensational ink crayons. I decluttered 3. I added 5. I think a couple of those were subscriptions. 1 or 2 were added from my stash. Yeah, 1 or 2 were added from my stash. Also, 1 was a gift with purchase. So I have 22. I have 22 altogether. Liquid lipstick. I had 21 of them in January. I finished 0. I decluttered 2. I added 6. I think, again, subscription box, mystery boxes, that kind of thing, because I don't remember buying any. But I could have, but I don't remember buying any. But I have 25. 25 altogether. Lip gloss. The bane of my existence. I don't like lip glosses, and yet it's my largest lip category. 27. I had 27 in January. I didn't use any. I didn't declutter any. I added 10 of them. Mystery boxes, subscription boxes, and then I did buy a ColourPop collection that had 2 in it. So I have 37 lip glosses that I don't wear. Yeah. For lip balms and oils, any kind of balmy type lip thing is in this category, plus lip oils. I had 13 in January. I decluttered 1. I didn't finish any. I decluttered 1. I had 1 come into my collection, 1 in my backup, and so now I have 14. Now, I don't know if, I know that I took pictures of them, but I'm not sure that they're on my spreadsheet because I don't usually put like chapstick on my spreadsheet. And I have like 3 chapsticks that I got from Dion Loves Makeup. So those are probably in the photo, but I don't think they're a part of, because they usually live in my handbag. Okay, here's the big one. Eyeshadow palettes. Now, I bought very few eyeshadow palettes the first half of the year. I bought some, but I also received quite a few in friend mail for my birthday, as gifts, whatever. I did. I had 195 in January. I obviously didn't finish any, but I have decluttered 10 of them. I have decluttered 10 through my project reuses and things like that. 23 eyeshadow palettes have come into my collection this year. Yes. 4 of the ones that are in my final total were 4 previously decluttered eyeshadow palettes. Like when I did my big declutter last year, I had them off to the side. And I'm like, oh, do I really want to get rid of that? I don't think I really want to get rid of that. So I put them back. So as of right now, I have 212 eyeshadow palettes for only 2 eyes. I have 2 eyes, you guys. So those are my numbers. Obviously, I did not take photos of my eyeshadow palettes. They're everywhere. Like, they're in drawers and I'm not doing that. That's a lot. I did a lot of work on the rest of the stuff. You're just going to have to take my word for it that I have 212 eyeshadow palettes. Now, for me, my collection is too big. For other people, I might have a baby collection. My collection might be really tiny. It's all how you look at it. I really do want these numbers to go down the second part of the year. I want to use up at least 2 products in just about every category other than face palettes and eyeshadow palettes, because that's almost impossible to do in 6 months. But I want my numbers next January to reduce. Now, I have canceled most of my subscription boxes. I still get Copacetic. I'm going to continue to get Copacetic. I did cancel Ipsy recently because I'm just done. I'm just done with that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thanks, you guys, so much for your patience. Thank you for your patience and me going through my ridiculous collection, ridiculous to me collection. I really appreciate being here and appreciate you hanging in. Until our next adventure, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you later.